It's not too late. You're not too old, and you have everything you need right now to get started. And if you think you need a whole nother degree or a certification to do whatever it is that you need to do, you don't. All you need is some good old accountability, some courage. This is literally why I created Courage Driven Latina, to help people do the things that scare them. Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erica Cruz. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Chingona Revolution podcast. This is another episode where I do not have a script. I just have a thought that I want to talk to you about. I do love these episodes because I feel as if it's you and I having a conversation where it's not heavily scripted. I'm not heavily prepared for it, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I'm like, you should prepare a little bit more for your podcast, Erica. But actually, before we get into today's topic, I just wanted to share that last week I had my mother on the podcast, and I have not gotten so many messages and comments about the podcast in a very long time until last week. You all loved my mom. A lot of my clients were messaging me inside of Slack, which is our internal communication tool, and how I coach them in between calls. And a lot of you were saying that my mom needs her own podcast. And I really do have to say that even though when I first started my business, she was not a big supporter because she didn't know how to support me, now she is one of my biggest supporters. And I just feel very fortunate. I feel very lucky. She is a wise woman, and she's still my mom. So she still can trigger me sometimes. As you know, I am still in her house, and I'm back in my childhood room to run this business. And it's actually, been kind of nice to like have this time with her. I think for a long time, I was like, I need to hurry up and get out of here because I've always been such an independent person. But this time is time that we're never going to get back, right? Like when I move out, I'm not going to move back. And not that there's anything wrong with people living at home, right? Like obviously I'm living at home, but I think a big part of me wanting to move was like, how is it possible that I'm still at my mom's house? But if you know me and you know my situation, my mom's getting ready for retirement. So me being here is actually a huge financial help for her, because what I would be paying in rent somewhere else, I'm contributing to her household. So I'm actually contributing to her retiring faster. And if you heard the episode, you know that is a big thing for her. So I just feel very lucky and honored to have a mother that is brave and courageous. I mean, even just being on the podcast was an act of courage, because my mom is an introvert and she does not like public speaking. She does not like speaking to strangers. Once she gets comfortable with you, she's good. But she was so nervous about the podcast, and she still did such a great job. And she was like, have me back on in like a year and you'll see my improvement. So she's manifesting being like a pastor. How do you say pastor and pastora? I don't know how I would say that. Is it just pastor? There's no female version of it in English, I guess. She wants to be a pastor at her church. So I have no doubt that she is going to make that happen. Other quick updates before I get into today's episode is that we are having the Courage Driven Latina event with a lot of clients. People that are going to that are in the mastermind will be also attending the event. We have some people who are not clients. I am so excited about the event, but if I have to be, I want to be totally transparent that event planning is hard. There's so many moving pieces. They always end up being a lot more expensive. I've definitely felt overwhelmed this week with the amount of things that I have going, because the event is in Los Angeles. I am still in the Bay Area. I thought I was moving to LA, which is why I chose LA as the destination. Ended up staying in the Bay. So now we're driving over there early on the Friday before. My team is landing on Friday, and we've had to go through just like rundown of what's going to happen, what time is food going to get there, who's going to go get the food, who's taking care of what. And I'm just so lucky that I have a team that is supportive. My mom is going to be one of those team members that's going to come with me. And I'm very excited about that. But it has been very overwhelming. There's just a lot of different things going on between the event. And then I'm going out of the country for 3 weeks. I'm going to be in Italy. So preparing the podcast episodes, right? Like even thinking ahead about the podcast episodes, it's been just very overwhelming, I think is the best word to describe things. And then when it comes to like where I am in my cycle, I am just ending my period now. So it's also just been the part of my cycle where I have the least amount of energy and when I'm the most sensitive. So having all of these different priorities coming up at the same time and then preparing for the next enrollment of Courage Driven Latina because I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. And when I come back, we're going to start the enrollment. So it's like, all right, what do we need prepared now? What podcast episodes need to be prepared? What videos need to be prepared? What does my team need while I'm gone? So just a lot of prep stuff. But the thought that has kept me going, not just in these last couple of weeks, but just over the last 4 years, since starting my business, I can't believe I'm going to go on 4 years. It's only been like 3.5 years because I started at the end of 2020, but still, wow, time flies. But the one thought, I actually debated making this podcast episode about this. So I'll just tell you about it because my other topic is actually going to be pretty short. But my thought that gets me through these times is I can do hard things because I can. And I've proven it to myself over and over and over. And even though I feel overwhelmed and there's been so many different things going on, and I'm sharing this to be transparent because I think sometimes you all just look at me and think everything comes easy and it's just everything's organized and everything's good. And sometimes it is, but most of the time, no, most of the time I'm pretty stressed out about something. And right now, overwhelmment has been the predominant feeling. And the thought that has pushed me through is I can do hard things. And I've proven to myself over and over and over that I can do hard things. So I'm not convincing myself that this isn't hard. I mean, I could do that, right? But what if I just owned up to like, yeah, this is kind of challenging, but if anybody can do it, it's me, right? I wouldn't have these opportunities if I wasn't capable of doing them. And whenever things are hard, I grow as a person and I grow my emotional capacity. I grow my intelligence. This is not the first event we've put together, which has made it a little bit easier. There are a lot of new factors going on. There's a lot of new things. Additional people are going to be there. It's going to be a bigger event, but we learned so much from the first event. So if you find yourself in a place where you are maybe paralyzed because you're not sure which action to take, or maybe you're also feeling overwhelmed, I invite you to practice the thought, I can do hard things. And if you don't believe that you can do hard things, think back over the last year of all of the different challenges and obstacles you've faced and how you were able to overcome those. Because if you're listening to this podcast now, today, you have overcome a lot of challenges, a lot of difficult things. So you can also do hard things. All we have to do sometimes is find the evidence. Find the evidence of, oh yeah, I am capable. Remember when I graduated from school, even though I was failing most of my classes when I started, or when I thought I was going to drop out, or remember when I ended up getting employee of the month when I thought I was going to get fired for my job, right? There's so many things that we just forget to recognize. Like we get so focused on where we want to go and what our goals are that we forget to acknowledge what we've already accomplished and what we've already done. So I invite you to take a moment and reflect on everything that you've done to get you to where you are now. Okay, that was enough of a rant. That was an 8-minute rant. Let's go ahead and get started with today's topic. I want to talk to you about how it is not too late, you are not too old, and you have everything you need right now to get started. There have been a lot of changes since 2020. 2020 was a pivotal year. A lot of jobs were eliminated. A lot of jobs transitioned into something else. A lot of us were then able to work from home for the first time. Social norms changed. the boom of the coaching industry and like TikTok and social media and short form content. I mean, so much has changed, right? And over the last 4 years, you are totally a different person than you were then. And if you find yourself in this place where you have a desire to do something, whether it's start a business or work on a project or work on a goal, I am here to remind you that it is not too late and you are not too old. What I've heard from clients a lot is I spent so much time getting this degree. Like, for example, we'll just use nursing as an example. I spent all these years, like 4 to 6 years, in becoming a nurse. And I don't want to walk away from it now because I've already invested so much time in this degree. But if we really think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, you invested 4 or 6 years to work a job that you've been working for however long. So what, just because you invested those 4 to 6 years means you're going to spend the rest of your life in a career that you already know you don't want to do? And a lot of times we get caught up in this, right? Like, oh, I invested so much time in this, so now I have to stick with it. We don't have to stick with anything. We're allowed to change. We are allowed to evolve. And another thing that comes up a lot that I hear from my clients is, well, that first one is, if I've already invested time in something, I don't want it to be a waste of time. So you're just going to continue to waste your time doing something you already know you don't want to do. And I think it's just because we shame ourselves because we made the quote unquote wrong decision. But you wouldn't have known that you didn't want to do that until you tried it, right? So let's keep using the nursing example. Let's say you went through nursing school, became a nurse, and were a nurse for, I don't know, a few years. You wouldn't have known that you didn't want to be a nurse until you became a nurse. So where are we maybe not allowing ourselves to evolve into what it is that we want to evolve? If you have a craving to do something different, if you're ready to change something in your life, if you want to change your career, the way that you see yourself, your confidence level, if you want to pick up a hobby, it is not too late and you are not too old. Because the other thing I hear, right, one of it's like, oh, I already wasted my time or invested my time in this, I should stick with it. That's one excuse I hear. The other one is, it's too late. I'm already in my 20s. Can you believe I hear that from people in their 20s? I already got a degree in this, or I already did this thing. Yeah. If you are in your 50s or 60s, it's not too late. I mean, last week, my mom was talking about like her next goals in life, right? And she's in her 60s. You are not too old to transition something in your life. You're not too old to bring change into your life. There's this misconception that like once we find ourselves, like we're done. But no, you have to constantly find yourself because you're constantly evolving and you're constantly changing. Who you were last year is different than who you are now. And who you're going to be in 10 years is different than who you are now. If you resist change and resist allowing yourself to go do something new, you are blocking your own growth. Amiga, I hope you're enjoying the show. We are going to get right back to today's episode, but I just had to drop in and check with you. How are you feeling? How are things going? If you find yourself frustrated or maybe shaming yourself because you have not taken the action that you wanted to take, maybe you are just tired of starting and stopping or overthinking or worrying about what your coworkers are going to think about you or your family members are going to think about you if you finally start that project that you've been wanting to start. I just want you to know that I see you. I feel you. I overthought starting my Instagram page for 2 years before I actually started it. So I get it. I totally understand. And if you find yourself in this position where you know that you want to make 2024 your year and you're ready to stop procrastinating and start taking action, then I invite you to Courage Driven Latina. Courage Driven Latina is my signature program where you will legit change your life in 90 days because we are going to help you take action on a courage project in 90 days. I also recently introduced the Courage Project Paths, which I'm so excited about. So you essentially get to pick the path that you want to work on, and you can work on more than one path because the program is now 12 months, right? But we recommend one path at a time. And I'm so excited about these paths because we have a confidence courage project path. So if you want to speak up in your relationships or maybe speak up at work, this would be the perfect path for you. Or if you just want to establish more self-trust. The second path we have is the content creation courage project path. So this is perfect for you if you want to create an Instagram page, a TikTok account, or perhaps you are ready to launch your own podcast. We even have a whole podcast course inside of Courage Driven Latina. The third path is the Career Courage Project path. So if you know that you want to be at the director level or the VP level, or maybe you're ready to change your job to a different job, then this would be the perfect path for you. Maybe you're like, you know what, entrepreneurship is cool, but it's not really for me. I really want to be a boss ass mommy. Then this is going to be the path for you. And last but not least, we have the Chingona CEO path. So if you know that you want to be an entrepreneur and you know you want to start your business, whether it's a coaching business or a physical business, if you want to sell a product, then this is the perfect path for you. Again, because this program is now 12 months, you can work on more than one path. Join the waitlist for Courage Driven Latina by going to the link down below in the show notes, because when you join the waitlist, you are going to be the first to know when we open doors, and you may even get some early access. So ensure that you join the waitlist. I cannot wait to work with you. We have some incredible women in this program, and the fact that it's now a year long, we've already seen so much transformation. I can't wait to work with you. Let's get back to the show, and don't forget to join the waitlist. And this change does not have to be completely changing your career. It could be picking up a new hobby. It takes a lot of courage to pick up a new hobby. This is coming from somebody who started dancing salsa and bachata in her 30s and almost gave up because, I don't know if y'all listened to that podcast episode where I talked about how I accidentally scratched this guy's like face and nose because I put my hand up and like my nail caught his face because I didn't know how to do the dance. Like I could have stopped showing up after that, but I continued to go. And now if you follow me on Instagram, you see my videos where I look pretty advanced now, but I was a beginner at some point. And there's people in dance class who start when they're in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s. And I think it's so beautiful. There's something so beautiful about allowing yourself to be a beginner because you're reminded that there's so much to learn still. It humbles you in the most beautiful way. It allows you to be open to growth. It allows you to work on yourself. And if you're just sticking to the things that you already know that you're good at, that's perfectionism coming up. That's, again, you blocking your own growth. Another thing that I started doing when I was in my 30s was boxing. I didn't start boxing until consistently. I didn't start boxing until a few months ago. And again, if you follow me on Instagram, then you've seen my progress with my kicks at kickboxing and with my punches. My form is so much better now. So much better now. And if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, Erica, you're in your 30s. I'm older than you. I had a feeling some of that was going to come up. So I wanted just to share a few people who have also started things later on in their career, who've made changes in their, not just, their career, but in their lives. Because I think it's so easy for us to hear about like the young success stories. Like Mark Zuckerberg was 19 when he started Facebook. Can you believe that? And then Bill Gates got Microsoft off the ground when he was 23. So these are the things that we hear so much about because it's almost like headline worthy, right? It's like, oh my gosh, it's so headline worthy. But there is so many people who started later in life, like past 40. I want to say the founder of KFC, the Kentucky Fried Chicken, didn't start franchising or until he was 65 or something like that. Yeah. Let me pull up exactly some of the people that I wanted to mention. So Vera Wang, she was actually a figure skater and journalist before she entered the fashion industry at age 40. She didn't enter the industry until she was 40. And now she's one of the world's premier women designers. Okay, another example is Betty White was one of the most award-winning comedic actresses in history, but she didn't become an icon until she joined the cast of the Mary Tyler Moore Show in 1973, and she was 51 years old when she did that. Steve Carell, who we know for The Office, as well as the 40-year-old virgin, didn't start as his main role, which was The Office, until he was 42. Okay, Arianna Huffington, who founded the Huffington Post, founded it at age 55. So if you were listening to this podcast and you're like, oh man, I have this desire to do something different in my life, it's not too late. You're not too old, and you have everything you need right now to get started. And if you think you need a whole nother degree or a certification to do whatever it is that you need to do, you don't. All you need is some good old accountability, some courage. This is literally why I created Courage Driven Latina, to help people do the things that scare them, to help them build the courage to take action on their courage project in 90 days or less. So if that sounds appealing to you, join us on the wait list, because we are going to be opening doors at the end of July for Courage Driven Latina. So be sure to join that by going down below to the show notes, and we will have the link there so that you can join the wait list, and then you will be the first to know whenever we open doors. But if you think that you need a certification, another degree, like really all you need is the courage to start. And I think there's this misconception that people are like, oh yeah, I'll start whenever I feel ready. But you're never going to get to this place where you feel ready, because being ready is not a feeling. It's actually a decision. You have to decide that you are ready. And even though I'm telling you it's not too late and you're not too old, I stand by that 100%. But that's not an excuse to wait another year or 2 years. When you know that you want to do something, do it. Have you ever heard the saying of like the best time to start was yesterday, but the second best time to start is now? That's exactly what we're saying. We can't beat ourselves up over what hasn't happened in the past, because this is something I hear as well. Like, oh, I should have bought more property when I was younger, or I should have invested in the stock market. It's like, wait, what if you just do it now? Like, just because you didn't do it then doesn't mean you don't want to do it now. Make it make sense. With that being said, I am going to pull some cards from my Animal Power deck. This is one of my favorite decks. So in your mind, go ahead and pick pile A or pile B, and then I will pull some cards and leave you with a little message. Okay, so if you chose pile A, you got macaw, which is a bird that looks very much like a parrot. I don't really know the difference, but it is a beautiful bird, and it's very colorful, which this gives me a lot of vibes of creativity and expression. And actually the words on it say, celebrate the power of expression. And I think it's interesting because I believe this is one of the type of birds that you can teach to speak, or that, are just pretty loud. So I feel like this has to do with something about using your voice and like speaking up. So let's read the description. Have you been holding back your energy for fear that it is too much? Have you been oh my gosh, I swear I hadn't read this before. I've never pulled this card actually. Have you been suppressing your voice in any way? The colorful and vocal macaw, I forgot how to pronounce it already, has flown into your field to help you examine the parts of yourself that are not being fully expressed. When you give yourself permission to speak your truth, to keep a song alive in your heart, then your life force grows stronger, and you experience heightened moods and new creative energy. Take a moment now to reflect on whether your voice or the love in your heart feels fully open. If it doesn't, then what next step do you need to take to be in your truth? So what this card is really telling me, especially after that, is maybe you have this desire to, I don't know, maybe like post on social media or become a speaker or share your story with other people or express yourself in some way. Maybe it's like pottery or poetry or something that really allows you to express yourself creatively. But the thing about creativity is that creativity is vulnerable. To go do a piece of work, a piece of art, to create content, that is all very vulnerable. And that's what can sometimes stop us and make us feel afraid of creating the thing that we desire. And if you picked pile A, think about the people that you are going to impact and influence when you allow yourself to speak up and to be creative. All right, I hope that resonated. And if you chose pile B, the card I pulled for you is the Lion card. And this description says, embrace honesty and generosity. So before I read the description on this, immediately what this is telling me is, so the lion is this very courageous, powerful animal. And as I'm reading the words honesty on here, I'm being like intuitively called to ask you, are you being honest with yourself? Are you being honest about your happiness in your current situation? Are you being honest with yourself about your desires? Are you being honest with other people about what you can and can't give them? Are you holding up your boundaries? Are you standing in your power? Are you standing in your strength? Because when we are vulnerable with ourselves, that is literally the most important person to be vulnerable with, right? If you want something more in life, be honest with yourself about it. And then so it says embrace honesty and generosity. Now I'm going to pull the actual description from the book. Lion represents honesty, generosity, and pure heart. Lion reminds you that you already have everything you need inside of you and helps you unlock these attributes with grace so that you can share them with the world. If there is someone you should have an honest conversation with, ask Lion to activate your courage, leadership, and integrity and go for it. If there's someone who could benefit from your generosity, then share your attention, energy, and resources with them without expectations or conditions. Call on Lion's medicine to help you act from a place of love, knowing you will always be provided for. I love it. Okay, friends, this was a little short episode. I hope that you enjoyed the reading as well as the message. Again, it's not too late and you're not too old. All you need is the decision to start and the courage to move forward. And if you feel called to Courage Driven Latina, join the waitlist. I would love to support you in this new venture, in this new shift. We will help you do it in less than 90 days. We're going to keep you accountable. We have a Courage Project plan to help you troubleshoot any possible obstacles you might overcome. We have a community of amazing, amazing women. Actually, just yesterday, somebody posted in the Wins channel. I took a screenshot because I was like, I have to share this. So this person said, 3 months ago, when I joined Courage Driven Latina, I felt lost and unsure about my next steps with my job. Recently, I was able to speak up to my boss and tell him what I wanted. I also drafted a proposal and he's working with HR to push our request. My next goal is to speak up when the offer comes through because I know they will come in low. For the first time in a long time, I know what I want and am confident in asking for it. Just 3 months ago, she joined. And I think I've maybe coached this person once. It's being in a container with people who are working towards something that scares them but excites them is so powerful. So, so powerful. Okay, friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed the cards that I pulled. And remember that it's not too late. You're not too old. And you have everything you need right now just to get started. I will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theericacruz.com. That's Erica with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erica Cruz. That's Erica with a K because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.